You see these vintage race cars at vintage events and they've been restored and they just look immaculate, or you see replica cars, especially like the super performance ones, the really high-end ones, and they look so perfect and you think, oh wow, you know, that's what a good one looks like. It's not what a real one looks like. Back in the day, especially the works ones, these were just tools to go fast, and they got mishandled in transport, they got wrecked at events, they were constantly modified. So in real life, they had lots of flaws, or as I like to call it, period correct panel gaps. Gap. I mean, look at the angle of this. I mean, the angle we're looking at the car. That gap has to be huge. Wheels further to the back than the front. Look here. Inconsistent gap. Inconsistent. And then, I mean, look over here. Look at this gap. Look at this door. I thought this wasn't closed, but I'm pretty sure it is closed based on down here. Look at that gap. I mean, good gosh. This gap's not great, but you wouldn't notice it because Mark III's got such an ugly butt. What's going on here? Again here, gap. It's pretty good right up here. But then that, this has nothing to do with panel gaps. I just love this picture. Gap, 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 gap. Holes, door taped in place. Gap, 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 gap. This doesn't quite line up, but you can see inconsistencies in there. This is what they look like in period. Look at this. Gap, Steve McQueen, whatever that is, tape, weird vent thing. Not sure what's going on here. That might be tape. Either way, it's not pretty. Just inconsistent lines in here. Taped up lights, gap, gap. Put it up here. Look at that. This is pretty bad too. Again, this is a picture. In real life, that I could stick this whole thing through that. Gap, 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 wrecked, gap. Pretty sure I can stick my finger through that one. This has been taped. Look at these gaps. This doesn't line up correctly. Gap, door taped on, and even the tape's coming off. Damage-induced gap. Mark IV, but still, look at that. When we saw this car in person, you could see daylight through the gaps from the other side of the car. Ignore this, because this just isn't closed, but look at this. This. That's besides the fact that this whole thing is ugly. I mean, look at this guy's face. He knows it's terrible. Just because we're here, Ferraris are some of the worst, and you think of Ferraris as being super expensive, fancy cars, but I mean, look at that.